Welcome back to Forgotten Genocides, the unrelenting requiem where we resurrect the roar of the ravaged and raise the ramparts of revisionism. Today we hurl ourselves into the heart of hell with the brutal truth behind the Cambodian killing fields. The Khmer Rouge's cataclysmic crusade that devoured 2 million souls in a 4-year frenzy of fanaticism, a nation's spirit pulverized under the boot of Year Zero. Imagine it. Emerald rice paddies, cradling communities of laughter and legend, monks chanting in golden pagodas. Families feasting on fish from the Mekong's bounty, ripped asunder by a regime of red terror that turned brothers into butchers, scholars into skulls, humanity into a howling void. Over the next minutes, we'll claw through the killing fields. The Pol Pot plague's venomous birth, the S-21 torture symphony, the women's warrior wails in the women's barracks, the children's cratered cries in the orphan ovens, the international indifference that ignited the inferno. Viewer discretion. This truth will rend your ribs and roar in your veins. It's education forged in the forges of Tuol Sleng's torment, a reckoning that demands your rage and your remorse. If the 2 million's unfinished screams stab your silence, subscribe now and surge with us. Let's lacerate the legacy of lunacy, or let it lacerate us anew. To unmask this monster, we must unearth the festering foundation, not the tidy agrarian utopia of Pol Pot's propaganda, but the French farce that fractured a kingdom's harmony. Pre-colonial Cambodia, a tapestry of Khmer kings and communal cultivations, Theravada temples tending the tillers' souls. Hanoi's shadow a distant dream. But 1863's French protection was predation. Indochina's iron fist forging factions from the forge of favoritism. Urban elites educated in Paris's poison. Rural peasants primed for Paris's puppets. What the annals asphyxiate. The Vietnam War's spillover, 1969's US carpet bombing, 500,000 tons of death raining on Cambodia's cradle, displacing 2 million, detonating the dynamite of despair. The Khmer Rouge, Sihanouk's sidelined sons, slithered from the shadows. Pol Pot, that Paris-poisoned phantom preaching Angkar's all-seeing eye. A year zero to yank the nation from its feudal chains. By 1975's fall of Phnom Penh, the red tide engulfed the capital. 2 million evacuated in an exodus of extermination. Cities emptied like exhumed graves. Year Zero's dawn was dusk for the damned. April 17th, 1975. The Khmer Rouge's liberation, a lie that liquefied lives in a cauldron of collectivization. What the chronicles choke? The forced marches, 2 million urban new people herded like cattle to communal farms, their feet blistered on burning roads, the old and infirm abandoned like refuse, their bones bleaching under the sun's sadistic stare. Angkar's edicts echoed like executioners' echoes, private property pilfered, religion razed, families fractured into base people and enemies. The gut-wrench, S-21's symphony of savagery, Tuol Sleng, a high school hijacked into hell, where 20,000 confessed under Khmer Rouge's diabolical devices, waterboarding that drowned breaths in buckets, electric shocks searing flesh like brands, fingernails yanked with pliers till fingers fountained blood. Prisoners, chained in classrooms of cruelty, their biographies beaten from broken bodies, only to be bludgeoned at Choyung X killing fields, skulls smashed with hoe handles to save bullets. Up to 17,000 exited S-21's gates only as ghosts, their photos haunting headshots with eyes wide in wonder and woe, a gallery of the gone, the deadliest in its domestic desecration. Neighbors naming neighbors for re-education, monks murdered in their monasteries, the Mekong's waters muddied with the mud of mass graves. Imagine the intimacy of infamy. Classmates clubbing classmates, teachers torturing pupils in the temples of learning turned torment. This wasn't reset, it was raising, a regime that razed reason to rubble. Cambodia's canvas of culture crucified. The women's apocalypse in Cambodia wasn't footnote. It was the foulest felony, a gendered genocide that gouged the womb of a nation. What the Wire reports whisper away. The new people's nightmare. Women like Bu Meng, herded to cooperatives of cruelty, their bodies battlegrounds for revolutionary purity, raped by cadres in rice fields that reeked of rice and rape. Up to 400,000 women violated, their pregnancies a counter-revolutionary crime, fetuses extracted with bamboo sticks in medical mutilations that made midwives murderers. The gut wrench, S21's women's wing, mothers like Mia Smith's wife, tortured with electric wires to their breasts, their milk mixed with blood as babies starved in adjacent cells, their cries a chorus of the condemned. Women like Q Thirith, Pol Pot's first lady, orchestrating the orchestra of ordeal, her social action a sadistic script that scripted the slaughter of sisters. The deadliest in its domestic desecration, daughters defiled in family farms, sisters sold for a sack of rice, elders enduring endless violations till death was deliverance. Yet from this violation, valor vaulted. Women like Musochwa, survivors sowing solidarity in exile, their threads a tapestry of tenacity that toppled the tyrant's throne. The screams still seep through the paddies, a siren that shrieks for the world's shame. Thailand's border camps complicit in the chaos, the UN's tardy tango with the tigers. Feel their ferocity. Cambodia's daughters rising from rape's rubble, their blood a balm that bellows for the balance of justice. The children's cataclysm in Cambodia wasn't footnote. It was the foulest felony, a kindergarten of killers where innocence was impaled. What the casualty counts compressed to cold statistics. The Angkar's youth, conscripted by cadres, call 10-year-olds wielding picks with whispers of year zero, hacking playmates in playgrounds where tag once tagged. Up to 1 million orphans orphaned anew, their parents pulped in pits, little ones lapping latrines for water while wild dogs devoured the dead. Tuol Sleng's tiny terrors, 1,000 children confessed under Duke's devices, their fingers broken like twigs, eyes gouged in re-education that erased their essence. The deadliest in its diabolical cradle robbery, Tutsi toddlers tossed into latrines like trash, Hutu children brainwashed into butchers, their tiny hands slick with siblings' blood. Imagine the innocence inverted. Playgrounds, pools of blood, crayons coloring carnage, lullabies laced with lies of victory. Up to 500,000 young lives lacerated. Their absence an ache that aches through generations. The genocide's legacy a litany of lost laughter. Yet in this nursery of nightmares, nurseries of hope nursed. Survivors like Loung, her first, they killed my father. A fist from the grave, their tales a thunder that thunders for the world's weeping. Hear their half-uttered hymns, a generation gutted but not gone, their ghosts gripping the guilty with ghostly grips. The world's whimper in Cambodia wasn't ignorance. It was iniquity incarnate, a global gaffe that amplified the anguish. What the diplomatic dispatches dissemble, the US's domino theory dread, bombing Cambodia into Khmer Rouge's embrace, Nixon's napalm nurturing the nightmare, Vietnam's 1979 invasion, a liberation laced with landmines, their occupation a decade of despair. The UN's UN seating the Khmer Rouge as legitimate until 1991, their delegates dining in New York while the dead decayed in ditches. China's friendship flooding arms to Pol Pot's phantoms, their aid an arsenal of annihilation, the deadliest in its dawning denial, Reagan's realpolitik rewarding the red remnants, Thai borders teeming with refugee camps that recycled the regime's remnants. Up to 2 million in 4 years, faster than Rwanda's rampage, while the Security Council slept in silks, Boutros Ghali's belated tribunal, a token after the tombs were full. The international community, a cabal of cravens cowering behind non-interference's skirt, feel the farce. A nation convulsed while capitals clinked champagne. The Mekong muddied with the mud of mass murder, the genocide's ghost goading us to gaze inward at our own genocidal gaze. This wasn't mishap. It was Malice Master's mandate, a legacy that lacerates the League of Nations, screaming for a reckoning that rings eternal. The Cambodian cataclysm's zenith of zeniths, not the kill count's cold calculus, but the nadir of neglect that nurtured the nightmare. 2 million eviscerated in emerald enclaves, a genocide that scaled from whispers to worldwide wailing in years, the deadliest in its democratic delusion. Neighbors neighbored into butchers, re-education camps ranting the rhetoric of rats, the world watching with wired windows. Feel the finality. Families flensed in front yards, fiddles forever silenced in seam-reaped streets, futures flayed from the flesh of the fledgling. The scale, a black hole of brotherhood, where Angkar's eye pierced every privacy, S-21's confessions coerced from the crushed killing fields' harvests, heaped in heaps of horror. But in this void, valor vaulted, survivors like Haing Ngor, Oscar winner for the killing fields. His testimony a thunderclap against the thunder. The ECCC's hybrid tribunal grinding justice from the grit of graves 3, convictions a trickle in the torrent. Up to 500 mass graves unearthed, their bones a bellow for the billions who turned blind. The deadliest, because it dared the divine in the daylight, a democracy devouring its daughters, yet from its depths, a phoenix forged. Cambodia's rebirth, tourism blooming on Tuol Sleng's tombs, women's cooperatives, a year 1 of empowerment. How can we behold such blackness without breaking? The paddies themselves pulse with the pain, the deadliest genocide not in death's tally, but in the daring to dream of division, a dirge that demands we dance in unity or dissolve in discord. The Cambodian rift's legacy, a laceration on liberty's ledger, birthing the extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia, Pol Pot's death in 1998. A dodge of the docket, a nation stitched from the shreds of schism. Tourism tending the temples of torment survivors like Chum May guiding the ghosts. Yet shadows stalk, landmines littering the landscape, 6,000 detonations since 1979, youth yearning for the yesteryears of unity, the world's whisper of never again, wilting in whimpers. The untold, survivors' unbreaking alchemy, Yuk Chang's documentation center, archiving the anguish to arm the future. Dara Duong's dance troupes, weaving steps from the shards of suffering. Sources, Loung's first They Killed My Father for the Marrow of Misery, David Chandler's The Tragedy of Cambodian History for the Unvarnished Verdict, Cambodian Documentation Center archives for the Agony's Annals. If this maelstrom mangled your marrow, if the 2 million's unfinished thunder thunders in your temples, like this video, unleash your lament in comments. Which lesson from Cambodia lacerates loudest? Share to shatter the schism. Subscribe to Forgotten Genocides for more maelstroms, like the next mauling of the Japanese Nanjing nightmare. Thank you for withstanding the whirlwind with us. In their unyielding unity, we undo the divide.